Just at the outset, I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, who are the traditional custodians of this land on which we meet today. And I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to other elders and Aboriginal people, Torres Strait Islander people, who are here today. And I know there are many, so thank you. So today, the WEHI, the Walter Eliza Institute, and through its Reconciliation Committee, welcomes Bruce Pascoe as our guest for Reconciliation Week. Now, just a few brief words about Bruce, who I first met in our favourite country, Malakuta, or Gypsy Point for Bruce, close by. So Bruce has ancestry from the Boonwurrung clan of the Kulin Nation. He's also a man of Tasmanian and Yuin heritage. Bruce is a teller of stories in the oral tradition, as I've learned, and many are very personal. He's also a writer of many commended books that draw on his experiences, including as a school teacher, a deckhand, a barman and a farmer, and no doubt other activities as well. He is a director of the Commonwealth Australian Studies Project, a member of the board of the Victorian Aboriginal Corporation for Languages, and is working on the retrieval of the Wathaurong language of southwestern Victoria. For 16 years, Bruce was the editor and publisher of Australian Short Stories Quarterly magazine. He's here to talk about Aboriginal agriculture before colonisation. In that regard, it's very timely and fitting because 2 weeks ago, his book, Dark Emu, which is here, and unfortunately is currently out of print for about a week because it's sold out, that book was awarded the New South Wales Premier's Prize for Book of the Year. Now, in this book, Bruce provides a wealth of well-documented and referenced evidence, which we scientists like, Bruce, we like evidence. And I can guarantee you that there's plenty of evidence and references and footnotes in this book to amaze you. And this is about a book that's based on the journals of the early Australian explorers in many respects. They're records which didn't appear in the history books about what Aboriginal colonisation, what civilisation was like when this country was colonised by the British. Now, he, along with other contemporary writers like Bill Gamage then, have dispelled the myth that Aboriginal peoples were simply hunter-gatherers. Theirs was a rich and complex culture, which should be a matter of enlightenment and pride for all of us. Now, I can open this book at any page and be surprised, as I'm sure those of you who have read it will be surprised. I can open it and I can read, several explorers and commentators witnessed grain in small seal parcels being traded to distant relatives. This selection of trade and seed over such a wide area and such a long period of time gradually changed the morphology of the grains and other Aboriginal food sources and produced the qualities which agriculturalists recognise as being the result of domestication. The science of baking developed alongside seed harvests. Richard Fulliger, Australian Museum, and Judith Furby, University of New South Wales, have found grindstones at Cuddy Springs near Walgett, Western New South Wales, which had been used to grind seeds more than 30,000 years ago. This is at least 15,000 years earlier than the Egyptian records of grain and seed and grinding. And that is not the only example within this country, and I'm sure that there are many more to be found. So without further ado, Bruce, we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Len. And I would also love to acknowledge the land itself, where we are, and all those wonderful elders who, in conjunction with the spirits and the land, created the law. And I'd like to talk to you about law later on. But I'm proud of my heritage, all my heritage. We've got a lot of Cornish in our heritage, but we have Aboriginal family from both sides, from Moonta in South Australia to Lockhart River in Queensland. And in searching for all those strands of the family, I came across a history that I frankly couldn't believe. The people that I was asking, particularly people in Western Victoria and later Far East Gippsland, were insulted by my ignorance, and they had every right to be insulted by my ignorance, because I believed a child's history of Australia. Not even and most 8-year-olds, when confronted by the story that we perpetrate as the history of Australia, would laugh, unless they've been to school, in which case they become inundated with this unbelievable story of invasion into Australia, which we still argue is settlement. Even a fortnight ago in Victoria, we were on radio, we had people ringing up to say it wasn't an invasion, it was a settlement. The history actually speaks against that profoundly. So for me to be able to talk about this in front of a scientific audience, in front of my own people, in front of my old friends, my family, I feel like a bit of a fraud, except that when I came across some of the facts in the explorers' diaries, my temperature rose incredibly to think that for 220 years we could believe that this was the case. This picture here is of Goongerah, Mount Goongerah, and Goongerah is the possum, but these are in fact some of the eggs of the rainbow serpent, because the rainbow serpent left Queensland, travelled all the way down the Great Dividing Range, and from there went across Victoria, South Australia, and that serpent's head rests on Rottnest Island now, according to the belief of many Aboriginal people. It has a parallel journey of the whale right down the east coast over to Western Australia and to Albany. I understand there's an Aboriginal woman from Albany in the audience, and I have a question for you, which I want to talk about later on. But this is not a child's story. You know, these are obviously rocks, but for Aboriginal people, they represent something. Spiritual representations around the world have been enormously powerful. Spiritual representations are currently causing Syrians to massacre each other. All around the world, if you go to the great art galleries, the great churches, the great castles in the world, anywhere in the world, choose a continent, you will see a trail of blood. You will see that those cultures are founded on war. The amazing thing in this country is that in this spirituality, this religion, and I took my daughter through it on Saturday and Sunday last week with my grandson, who's that high, 6, and suffers from autism. We went through part of Yuin culture, or virtually the entire 7 chapters of Yuin culture on the top of Mount Gullible, and later on the Sunday through the part of the whale ceremony, which is why I'm mentioning snakes and whales. And I was watching my family very, very closely, because I wanted them to absorb as much of it as they could, because in a modern world you don't get many weekends when you can have your daughter and your grandson and some good mates around you. And I made a point of talking about with them that Saturday night, and I said, this is a profound religious experience, spiritual experience that you have undertaken. I want you to remember that today you did not see a weapon. You did not see a gloating of having conquered an enemy or taken someone's land, because Aboriginal culture does not revere that as an act of a human. I think it's very important for the world to consider a culture where the taking of another group's land has never been considered, or if it was considered, it was controlled by law. This is an incredible philosophy, and I acknowledge those old people who, with the power of their intellect alone, with the power of their love of land, of the mother, they created a philosophy which refused to indulge in war. War is not the natural condition of man. And in Australia we prove that. So to throw up your hands and say, we can't do anything about the conflicts around the world, we can't do anything about Hiroshima, we can't do anything about the dumping of nuclear waste on YPY lands in South Australia today, we can't do anything about the destruction of the Burrup Peninsula art, the greatest coherent and large-scale spiritual development on earth, for the sake of a gas terminal that might be useful for 15 years until the gas runs out. If we say we can't do anything about that, well, we deserve our fate. And I'm pleased to talk to you people today because you're in a position to do something about that.